In today's market, what's the number one thing that stops people from getting in or growing their self-storage business? No, it isn't some dynamic, new, fast evolving aspect of the self-storage business, although there's a lot of that. What it is fear. Hello, my name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Self-Storage Quick Start Academy. And what I do is I help smaller investors who want to get in the self-storage business, or smaller investors who want to grow their self-storage business, strategically do so in a way that creates true wealth and a fulfilling career. And I work with a number of people, and I've been involved in this business and a number of businesses over my career. And what I still see is the number one thing that stops people from taking action, stops people from moving forward, is still nothing but fear. Now, I know that's not a fun thing to work on necessarily, but I wanted to do a couple of episodes that really discuss this and go into detail about it, because it stops many of us. And it looks a number of ways. It looks like you have to get just a little bit more information before you can take the next step. Or I just need to find out if the seller will do this, or why the competitor in that market's doing that. Or I'm not 100% clear on what income's going to be in the next few years. Those are the type of conversations that we have internally, but what's driving those conversations and driving the lack of action is fear. So we started last week in episode 110 on talking about the 5 practices that I've seen over my career that make a huge difference in addressing fear. Now, we never get to the point where there is no fear. Where we get to the point is that fear does not dictate our actions. In other words, we can have fear, but fear doesn't stop us from taking the necessary actions. What happens is, what these practices do is they allow fear to have a very short lifespan in our consciousness, and it's not a very inviting and enriching environment for fear to linger on when you live a life practicing the practices we're talking about. And if you remember the first 2 from last week, if you didn't watch last week or read last week, click here or go to creatingwealththroughselfstorage.com. Blogs episode 110. So if you remember, the first practice was feed and strengthen your mind daily. Practice number 2 was feed and strengthen your body daily. In both those practices, we went into detail, and it talks about creating an environment where the thought of fear and the emotion of fear does not have a very inviting environment in which to live and grow in your mind and in your body. Today I want to go a little bit further. I want to talk about the third practice that I have seen successful people, my mentors and coaches, teach me. The third practice has a huge difference on how much fear will impact your life, both personally and professionally. So the third practice is find good and find the right role models for you. Now, that role models could show up as people you observe, people you work with, your coaches and your mentors. And here's a bold statement I'll make. I didn't come up with this, but I've heard this. There is no such thing as a self-made person. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs may argue with me on this, but there really is no such thing as a self-made person. Every one of us, we did it ourselves, but we stood on the shoulders of people who've gone before us. We have learned from people who've gone before us. My intention here is to share with you and learn out loud what I know and am finding out about the storage business, so that we can all grow and our learning curve shorten down. We all stand on the shoulders of the people that have gone before us. And I learned the value of a mentor very early in my career. The people that I admired and looked up to and were role models all said, get a mentor, get a business coach. And as you find people who do what you want to do and are ahead of you, and ask them what to do. Pay them if you need to, but find people and work with them and learn from them. And I tell you, that has probably been the single most important aspect of my career development as I look back on it than almost anything else I've done. As Jim Rohn said, and Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins' mentor. Now I'm paraphrasing here, but Jim said many times and told Tony Robbins time and time again, if I look at the 5 people you spend the most time with, I'll be able to tell you your character and I'll be able to tell you your net worth. The people you hang around with, and particularly your mentors and role models, have a huge impact on who you become personally and professionally. Seek out and be very careful about who you mentor after and who are your role models. Be selective. Be in mastermind groups. I love mastermind groups where a group of like-minded people get together for a specific period of time and support each other in growing themselves personally or professionally, whatever the mastermind group is about. I love mastermind groups. They've made a huge difference. All these 5 practices we're talking about in these episodes were taught to me by coaches and were taught to me by mentors. Without them, I wouldn't be standing here in front of this camera or writing this episode or even be in the storage business. And I can't tell you the number of times that I have been stopped, and the conversations and the kick in the tail I've gotten from these coaches and mentors has made all of the difference in the world. I remember, I can tell you many stories, but I remember one story in particular was earlier in my career. I was involved in a high-rise condominium project in our marketplace right on the waterfront in the downtown of our city. Very high-profile project, luxury condominiums. It was the city put out a request for proposal. An architect responded. He put together a team, and I was picked to be on the team because of my marketing ability and the ability to give the ownership and the partnership insights on marketing and consumer activity and absorption and that type of thing. And this was a partnership made up of extremely high net worth individuals, hundreds of millions of dollars net worth individuals. And I can remember being proud that I was asked to be in it, and I was in this group, but mostly there were all these like rich people, and then there was me. And I would show up to the meetings, and mostly I sat and listened and just watched how rich people function in partnerships, or at least that's what I thought I was doing. And we just made the decision to go on and use our equity first, start building. We would do the pre-sales. Once we got some traction, then we would go out and get the financing, and we started the construction, started the sales. Then September 2001 happened. Everything came to a grinding halt. And the building was up, 4 to 5 stories. Nothing was happening. No bank was touching us. And ultimately, some of the higher net worth partners and the members in the partnership did not want to sign the guarantee that was required for a construction loan of a condominium project because their net worth was so high that literally they had all of the liability, but only a part of the upside. I mean, I get that totally. And the partnership was stalled. There was bickering in it, fighting, talk of lawsuits. You can imagine how much fun that was at the end of 2001, beginning of 2002. I had a coach at that time, and I can remember being in a meeting with my coach, and the coach saying, "What are you going to do? How are you going to solve that?" And I thought, me? I mean, how in the world would you ever expect me, little me, in this vast partnership of high profile, high net worth people. What the heck could I possibly do that would make a difference? And my coach told me I was being a wimp. That was not the exact words that were used, but that I was to man up, start acting like a real partner, or our relationship is over. That person was sick and tired of working with someone who was so weak and such a wimp. So what I did was I called a partnership meeting. I remember this, and everyone showed up. I was surprised that people would respond to me, but I called a partnership meeting. Everyone showed up. I completed who I'd been. I said how I've been acting. I took responsibility for the way I'd been being in the partnership. I completed that, told them they would not to expect that who would show up from now on would be a real partner. And as a real partner, here's what I see. If this, and this doesn't happen, this project's going to fail. There will be lawsuits. The LLC will go bankrupt, and all of us have personal liability. Well, I'm not saying that conversation made the difference, but that conversation made a difference because within 2 weeks we had the construction loan and the building was coming out of the ground. And some of the takeaways of that is, I learned then, never be in a condominium development project. Like, those are probably the worst, but some of the partners that were in that room, in that project, went with me when I started one of my brands in the self-storage business. They had that much confidence in me as a partner and that much trust in me as a partner to be a straight talker that one of the brands I'm involved in grew because of the people that were in that room. You never know. Everything's connected. And you never know the impact of having a coach or a mentor can provide you. That's a conversation that would have never happened without a coach. Get a mentor and be careful who you get as role models and mentors. Practice number 3. Close to practice number 3, practice number 4 is proximity is power. Being close to people that you want to learn from, you want to model after, and you want to grow with, being physically in a proximity of these people makes a huge difference. Again, early on in my career, my coaches and mentors taught me, take a percentage. With me, it was 10%. Take 10% of what you earn yearly and plow that back into personal development and professional development and training. Go to conferences, go to meetings, go to seminars, get physically with the people that you want to learn from and the people that are ahead of you in what you're doing. I still do that today. Much of what I talk about at the ISS is that, but it doesn't stop there. I go to personal development and personal training every year, multiple times a year. Now I have a little more of my 10% now is a little larger than it used to be. So I can afford to go to some, high profile, really world-class training. And I do it every single year. I'm continually growing. So for example, if you want to learn to meditate, reading a book about meditation is good, but going to a workshop put on by the person that wrote that book is even better. And then working one-on-one with them at the workshop or elsewhere is even better. It's one thing to read a book, it's one thing to watch a video, it's another thing to go and be with the people that you want to grow with. Proximity is power. If you want to learn how millionaires think, how billionaires think and do business, then get involved in groups and conferences and training that those people go to. If you want to be a certain way, then go and be where those people are who are the way that you want to be. If you're in the self-storage business or you want to get in the self-storage business, first and the easiest, lowest hanging fruit is to go to the ISS conventions and the SSA conventions. I go to both every single year. I go to the state ones every single year. Why? Proximity is power. Being with the people and being seen by people is power. You learn Not just what they say, not just what you hear, but you learn by being with people and seeing who they are, how they're being, what they do, what's of concern to them, what they're thinking about, what they have their attention on. And when fear arises, as it does all of the time, it's a natural byproduct of our human evolution. If you don't have it, then that's a problem. But when fear does arrive, the power that you get from being in proximity to these people goes a long way in having that fear have a short shelf life and prohibits you from taking action. One of my personal beliefs is that within each of us, every one of us, there's more power that we could ever imagine. So every time I write about the industry, or every time I give a public speak about the industry or something around the industry, every time I'm working with someone in a professional manner, my intention is to talk to that inside of all of us that has the power that we are not even aware that we have. I speak to that. I talk to that person. I relate to everyone as that, and my intention is to bring that out in people. And I learned that from being in proximity to others who are ahead of me, and they did that with me. And I recommend you take on the practice of proximity is power. When fear strikes, the power you get from being in close proximity to the people you're role modeling after and are ahead of you on the road that you're traveling, the proximity and the power you get from being with them goes a long way when that fear strikes. And practice number 5, now this might sound a little strange in dealing with fear, but practice number 5, always give more than you expect to receive. Take that on as a lifetime practice. Fortunately, I got that early in my career when I read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. There's a million, nuggets and powerful things in that book, but the one I got the very first time I read it and stuck with me was always give more than you expect to receive. And the reason I include that in this practices to overcome fear is because as I look back, and I can only get this perspective from 30 and 40 years of trying to put this practice into place, but by taking that on as a practice, and believe me, I'm far from perfect on it, but taking that on as a practice, I see takes real courage. The type of person, the courage it takes to take that on as a practice creates the mental mindset in which fear has a very short shelf life. In order to be a person who takes that practice on, there has to be a leap of faith, like a belief that there's more to this world than what we can see with our eyes and what we can make an immediate connection with. That if we are a certain way, if our character's a certain way, if we behave a certain way, that way of being has an impact far beyond anything we can see at the moment. That having that faith takes courage. That's the courage that creates an environment where fear does not have a long shelf life. Now, the good news is you don't have to be perfect at this practice. Conversely, someone who's always thinking how they can get the advantage, that if I give, then I have lost, and always looking out for number one, seeing how I can get the advantage over you and win over you, that begins to have everything that begin to show up as a threat against me. And what happens is that type of thinking creates a rich and fertile environment for fear to have a very long shelf life. And when fear has a long shelf life, that's when it stops people from taking action. It's not that we're trying not to have fear, it's that we recognize fear for what it is, a thought or a feeling, and that it doesn't become all-consuming, which stops the action steps that we need to take. These 5 practices take courage and take commitment. It actually takes courage, the kind of courage that we need to take action even when there's fear. So I invite you to begin to take these practices on. You know which one of them would probably be the most important to you at this point in your career, in your development. Take that on. Don't forget the other ones though. Take what I've said, modify it to work for you, because I'm here to tell you that fear will never go away, but you do not have to be stopped by fear. You do not have to be someone who almost got in the self-storage business, but was unable to take the action to get in this fantastic business because you were stopped by fear. It doesn't mean be reckless. It doesn't mean take unwarranted risk, but I know that you know the difference between unwarranted risk and being stopped by fear. So thank you very much. My name's Mark Helm. I'm the author of Creating Wealth Through Self-Storage, and I'm the creator of the Storage World Analyzer. And I invite you to go to storageworldanalyzer.com to find out more about this financial analysis tool. It is one of the most powerful tools we have in our briefcase of self-storage tools. It allows us to analyze and project and predict cash flows very well, and it lets us know and you know what you can pay for self-storage to get the returns that are part of your business strategy. So thank you very much. My name is Mark Helm. I'll see you next week.